go ahead and get started with the core conversation for the month of April on information and referrals. I want to introduce myself. My name is Adam Ayers. My pronouns are he, him, and I am new to April. I'm temporary TTAS, which is our training and technical assistant specialist. My visual description is I am a white male with short hair, salt and pepper, glasses, and a black polo. I'm a person with a disability. I have osteogenesis imperfecta and am a wheelchair user. Um, my wife is also a wheelchair user with osteogenesis imperfecta herself. And we have three children, a 16, a 13, and a 7-year-old. And my oldest has a disability, achondroplasia. My background has been in recreation therapy for the past 15 years, working in long term care facilities and community settings with inclusion and adapted sports, which is one of my main passions. I'm a coach for our junior prep team, Cincinnati Dragons. We just competed in the wheelchair basketball nationals in Virginia, which was awesome, and involved in a national organization with Dwarf Athletic Association of America. I'm really involved in our local community, Mason, Ohio, on the park board with inclusion and accessibility of all of our parks and recreation areas. And I've been listening to the past three core conversations that have been recorded, and really happy to be a part of the ones moving forward. And I just love how it's been a great place for people to share resources and connect on issues. And everybody's just been so collaborative. So I really enjoy seeing that and look forward to being a part of it more. So I'll be facilitating it today with Kyle Kleist. Kyle, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you, Adam. My name is Kyle Kleist. Pronouns are he, him, his. Visual description, I'm a nearly 60-year-old male now with gray hair and a gray goatee and dark rimmed glasses. I have been in independent living for around 20 years, serving in a variety of roles at the Independent Living Center. So I am executive director at the Center for Independent Living for Western Wisconsin, located in Menominee. So if you're wondering where that is, it's a hour straight east of Minneapolis, St. Paul, serving 10 counties, predominantly rural. Like I said, I've been in IL for nearly 20 years now. Took a little bit of a 10-year sabbatical, I like to say, from IL, and in that time served on the board for the center, and then returned as assistant director and now executive director for the last 4 years. And today we're here to have a conversation on information and referrals. So, I always thought the way to kick this off would be, why do we do INRs? I mean, why did Ed Roberts and the gang at Berkeley decide that INRs needed to be one of our 4 core services? So why is it important? I can give you my thoughts, but I'd love to hear from other folks. Selena, I see you raising your hand.
Yes. Why do you think, well, I think the question was, why do we think it's important? I think it's important just for the simple thing of people don't know where to start. People don't know where to go. I come from a small center, very small, very, very small. And so we typically have to connect them to resources within a community. But a lot of calls for IR are just because they don't know where to, where to go or who they need to call, whether it be food stamps or utility bills or utility help. So I think just to get people started on the route of where to go, who to call, a starting point. That's all.
Well said. I mean, it's all about connecting people with resources. I mean, that's what we do. We learn about all of the resources available to the individuals that we serve. And and try to provide people with that path in the right direction. So whether it be the consumer, the family, even agencies, I know we get tons of INRs from agencies. Other ones, I see, is it Corna or Cora? Cora, sorry.
Yes, Cora. Hi. Just to kind of echo what was already said, I was born and raised in this town. There are 18,000 people. I thought I knew quite a lot more than I find that I do when I have questions. And I find it so inspiring. And it's one of my favorite parts of my job when someone will call me with a complex, dynamic question and I know where they can start getting help. And a lot of the consumers we work with, I work with Wyoming Independent Living here in Sheridan, Wyoming. Sorry, I should have placed myself. But a lot of our consumers have these issues and they hear from people, oh, just say you're disabled and people will help you. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so it's wonderful to be able to piece people together with the process, how to even get started and what resources they will need, what information they will need in order to apply for things, and to go to meetings of resources and network and to see patterns and links and projects and ways we can work together instead of all being in our own silo. It's one of my favorite parts of this job.
Thank you for sharing that. Sandra, I see you raised your hand.
Hi, this is my first time to this group. I'm Sandra McBroom and I'm from the Independent Center in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm an INR specialist, red hair, blue eyes. My role is very fulfilling because we help people with all kinds of things, just like everybody else does with INR. It's very gratifying. I will piggyback off of Cora, to just be able to fulfill the needs of others. Like, you know, we get people that will call several different agencies, and by the time they land with us, well, then we've got a plethora of resources. We're able to connect people with partnering agencies and get them the information they need in a correct fashion because we've got all of those resources put together. And that's what we do in Colorado Springs, and we've got quite a few people here.
Thank you. You know, that kind of leads me into my next question. Just when you said your title was INR specialist, is I wonder, how do centers do INRs? Do you have a dedicated INR specialist? Do staff take time doing INRs? I know some centers, it's like every staff has to take a day. Sometimes it's who's ever in the office at any given time. So I'm curious, you know, at your center, how do you do INRs? I'll tell you, at our center, we've done it a variety of ways over the years. It used to be whoever was available, and then we went to dedicated staff on given days. And then finally, we went to a dedicated INR specialist. So we have one person that essentially handles all of our incoming INRs. That's what she do. She's wonderful at her job. I told her she can never retire because she knows all the resources that are out there, having done the job for so long. So let me hear from other. How do you do INRs at your center? Adam, I'll let you select people that.
Hi,
Yep,
this
that
is.
sounds good. Go ahead, Janice.
Oh, hi. No, I
Hello.
was just gonna say, here at Silo here in Cincinnati, we all do INR. We do not have a designated person for INR. If you get the phone call, that's you. You do the INR. So, we're small. We're not really big here. So anyone who gets that call does the INR. And I believe Dee and Suzanne are on the call too, so they can attest to what I'm saying.
Wow. You know, I see even from the chat, I guess it really goes to a lot to how big is your center? How many staff do you have? Can you afford to dedicate one person just to doing INRs? Celine, I see you have your hand raised again.
W- I work for the Freedom Center for Independent Living in Middletown. I'm an independent living specialist. We are all cross-trained to do INRs, but we do have a specific person. But case in point, like this week, that person is out of the office unexpectedly. So it's just nice to have everybody be cross-trained. So at my center, we are cross-trained. We're supposed to be a staff of 6. We're now down to a staff of 4. So yeah, it's very small here too.
I see a lot of things coming up with the chat that everybody gets cross-trained in INR. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it is at our center too. I mean, especially if you got an INR call coming in and your INR specialist is on an INR call, what do? You just put that person to voicemail, or do you have somebody else take the call? So happy to hear from others.
Yeah, some in the chat we're saying we have an INR specialist in the office. However, we cross-train other staffs that can cover the front desk whenever needed. That's Sarita Puri to everyone. And another one at our center, Laura Kirkland says the North Central PA. So in Williamsport, I'm the information and referral coordinator and receptionist both. I gather the info, refer those not needing to be assigned to the other staff, to resources in the community. So I also add to the referral contact. So it seems like it's a team effort in many of the CILs to get these referrals and information and get them connected. D. Henry, you got your hand up?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Dee Henry. She, they pronouns. A visual description is I'm a white person, age 25. I have my office wall background with some random papers up on the wall behind me. Like Jenny said, we work together in Cincinnati at Silo. And something that I wanted to add, like she said, we all do INR. It's basically, first come, first serve kind of. Whoever receives that call will either do the INR or pass it on to someone if it's kind of in someone's area of expertise. It can definitely be very taxing, especially when you have a whole other position that you're trying to do the work for that one. And then also on top of that, find certain, resources, do INR. So something that I've been trying to do is create spreadsheets with all of the resources, like the common ones that people come to us a lot for, specifically like rental assistance is a really big one, transportation. We also have counties in Kentucky and Ohio, so we cover a pretty large service area. So what one person might need is going to be totally different than another person based on where they're residing at. So that's kind of an in-progress thing that I'm trying to work on, is creating a one-stop shop where it can be really easy to get those resources, because it can be very time-consuming, at least from my experience.
Yeah, keeping those spreadsheets updated is also another chore. It gives a lot of times information changes, and so I'm sure that takes quite a bit of time to making sure that it's fresh and up to date.
Sandra, I see you'd had your hand up previously.
And then thank you. We've got 2 full-time INR people at my job. We both work the front desk, but we have a primary person who will be there for the week, and then whoever's not the primary person does the intakes when they come in or if they call. And then we've got several different people in outreach and in pre-ets and transition that are trained up to do INRs. So several people do cross-train the front desk, the INR department, and they have all the information. We've got several people that contribute to the information in our building. And then we have a OneNote resource that information gets deleted, added, and we just try to keep that central for all of us to give out the information. But we definitely have a system where 1 week on, 1 week off, whoever's not up there, they're doing the intakes for the week, and it works great.
Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm from Independent Living of Niagara County, but we're also part of Western New York Independent Living. So it's a bigger agency per se. So we do have an intake that's in our main office in Buffalo. So they do some of our INRs and then they transfer them up to our location in Niagara County. But then we get calls from our Niagara, which right now we do not have an administrative assistant answering the phone. Ryan, who's now he was my administrative assistant. Now he's my assistant director. He's actually doing both. So we all do INRs pretty much. So it's kind of all depends on who answers the phone, and who does the intakes. We also have an A to A program, which is with substance. So they do all their own calls because they have a hotline. So those staff actually do all the INRs for them too, because it's like I said, they call the hotline and they do it. So that's kind of how we do it with a smaller but in a bigger independent living.
Anybody else are going to go on to my next question? And the big one, because I'm the one that has to do the PPR. So I need to know the INR numbers. So how about tracking? How do you go about tracking your INRs? So I know that, so let me ask a question, a little bit, clarify that a little bit. So does each staff doing the INR, do they have access to your like MIS system? Or whichever you're using, So First or So Suites, or so everybody, so they can go in and input it on their own, or do you have somebody that does all of the input? So for instance, I know a couple centers that actually have an INR form that they just fill out. And then that form goes to a data entry person who inputs all of the INRs. I don't know, kind of a control, but we have to track them. So we got to report INRs. That's one of the thing ACL wants to know. So how about when it comes to tracking?
Sandra, I saw your hand go up. Sandra McBroom.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I didn't know if you said my name or not.
Sorry.
We have a tracker. So it's a monthly tracker on a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. And so whoever does the intake, you add all the information, and all of that tracker is mainly for the front desk. And then other people have their own trackers, I do believe, like outreach. They keep track of their intakes as well.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Selena?
My center, we use this database software called MySeal. We're hoping to get switched over to Seal Suite very soon. But we're able to do our own INRs, but then our director has access because Mr. Kleist said he has to do the big PPR, so we have to maintain our INRs, but our director is able to access all of the INR numbers. It's just PPR time is hectic for all of us, whether you're a director or an ILS, because it's like the numbers the math has to math. They're saying math ain't math, and if those numbers don't match up, oh my gosh. So yeah, we do our own, but our director has access to all of them within the database.
Thanks for sharing. Philip Corona, I see your hand up.
Hi, I work for Independence First in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I do INRs, and we have 2 people doing INRs, and we use Sills First, which is easy to manipulate and get the services or the documentation that is needed.
Great, thank you. Tim, I see your hand up next.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Tim. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm a white male and brown hair, blue eyes. I am one of the main intake people for our local office, but I also serve as a intake person for the other 2 offices as need be. Generally speaking, we use Welligen to store information. And at the end of the week, I usually go through my intakes for the following week to make sure we follow up with everyone promptly. and I do my discharges, which kind of acts as a backup mechanism to make sure we keep track of everything.
Yeah,
Right.
I see from the chat a number of people using, whether it's SillSuite or SillFirst or MySill, using that for tracking. Some of them use, I know some of you are still using the phone. So let me see if I can share my screen. I was going to show you our INR form that everybody completes. I think except our INR specialist, because she's like got it so ingrained in her head. So kind of complex, but just to give you an idea, trying to capture the caller information, where they learned of service, type of caller, disability, and then information given. And then if we do a referral. So be happy to share it with anybody.
Yeah,
So
it looks like they are asking if you can share that form. So that'd be great if you were able to put that in a link or provide it in the email that we send out afterwards. That would be very helpful.
I would be happy to. So then let me ask you, after tracking, how about follow-up? How do you do follow-up on your INRs? Making sure people are getting the information. Do you follow up with them after that? Did they, was the information helpful? Were they able to follow through on it? Go ahead.
This is me. I'm sorry. I don't raise my hand all the time. I forget.
No, go ahead, Phil.
Sorry. But we do surveys and also leave the call or end the call with, if there's anything else we can do for you, please let us know and follow through and let us know how things turn out.
So I see folks, someone put in the chat there, Scott, that they have an INR survey they use for follow-up. We do that as well. We have a survey we conduct, but Deb, our INR specialist, she puts a little tickler for herself to make sure that she follows back up with that INR, double check with them, was the information helpful? No. So people put that, we do SillSuite reminders. Yep. So can do that. We use SillFirst, but you can do that as well. Isn't that a great little function? You can give yourself a nice little reminder using your database system. So yeah, that's how she does it. But let her get back and make sure she does follow up. So let me hear.
Definitely a person that needs reminders. And
No.
how long do you guys usually wait to follow up? Is it a week? Is it 2 days, 2 weeks? I see Sandra said 2 weeks. Is that typical? Great. I don't know if there was a standard for that, or because I mean, we are kind of in the customer service business at the end of the day, and that follow up is important. It's just how long do you generally wait for that? Selena, you got your hand up 5 days?
No, I usually wait, depending on where the call falls out in the week, of course. Like if it's like a Monday or Tuesday, I try to get back like the following day. But like if it's a Friday, I typically wait that Monday, maybe that Tuesday, not that long of a wait, because it's always now. Like we get a lot of SOS housing calls or emergency food or whatever the case may be. So I wouldn't want them to wait that long. So
that's a good point.
You bring up another point. How many of you have any kind of protocol and you need to follow up on an INR call within X number of days? Usually we try to within 3 days. So from the time we receive an INR call, we make sure that at least within 72 hours, we've gotten back to the person. But like Sandra said, I believe her benchmark is 2 weeks, but to 30 days, depending on like the information given. She'll set that little reminder to follow up on the resources. Love to hear from other folks. How do you do follow-up?
Couple in the chat box, Laura Kirkland said we do surveys as well. We're also contacted through our website, and my supervisor sends me that info in an email, and I then contact them and gather their info. If I have to leave a message and they don't return my call within a few days, I have to give them a call back. Angela Eccles says we check back around 2 weeks after given resource or resources information, Disability Options Network. Thank you for that. Sandra McBroom says phone calls and emails for our follow-ups.
So some wonderful information that kind of led me into my next question. How do you go about getting your INRs? I mean, it used to be the phone calls. Do people have on their website like a fillable form? I mean, you could just put in INRs on, you can request through social media. So what's our new ways? This was one of the things that interests me. What's our new ways of capturing INRs? Scott had put it depends on how complicated it is. Great point. Sandra, you raised your hand again.
So we use our info we have that on our webpage. So we get tons of those people filling out, like a fillable form on the website, and then we follow through with those. We get home health referrals. We also get referrals through our veterans directed care program, and then walk-ins and phone calls. And then oftentimes we'll get a referral from partnering agencies as well.
I see in the chat from Laura Kirkland, we get contacted via Find Help. Laura, what is Find Help? I've never heard of that before. So I'm making a note of that. Other ones, we do get some contacts through, I think it's 211, which they have the calling in our area. So I just got a couple emails from ones. I think it's that time, making sure they have our contact information and services we provide up to date. So we do get some contact through that. But we've added it to our website where people can just fill in if they have an INR, and then that generates an email.
Don Hand says we've been getting more INRs through Facebook Messenger and requests from our website recently. So with social media, we've all got our organizations on those social media. So that's another avenue and something else we have to check for those INRs coming in from all kinds of different angles and different communication networks. I
see Tom has his hand up.
Yeah, now we're getting into an issue that there's a lot of referrals and information out there that has to be checked. Right now we have a lot of state governments that are very much getting into what's happening with our disability services. Some of the committees, the Help Committee and the federal with Warren and Markey just got done doing a hearing last week about private equity and the disability services. So, if you have services out there that are going to be recommended, you better. Sometimes when they're, we'll just talk about private equity for just a second. They have HBS services, home health care. I'm talking about autism services, a lot of services that you would want to referral, but if they're owned by private equity, you got to remember that they're going to be substandard. You don't want to, take refers somebody that their mobility rates are high. Or more than other services. So, it goes into, who are the referrals, what are the services and the agencies, we're going to have to figure out a way to have the state tell us, if they're equity owned or privately owned, or something that we can have, oh, this is a little bit, this is a better one. Our people should have a choice whether it's going to be a good service or a bad service. I'll stop there.
No, wonderful point. When we're making referrals to different agencies and stuff, we should know as much as we can about that agency. I see one of the questions that somebody posted out there was when we're talking about INRs and where they come from is our younger folks. So most calls are coming from adults if they're under 30. So usually coming via social media, Facebook, other contacts.
I see Adina replied to that question and said most of our calls are also coming from older adults, the elderly as well. If they're under 30, it's usually in regard to an elderly parent. So seeking services for their aging parents or family members. And Renee comments, I almost feel like younger folks don't use phone calls much, LOL. They're probably hitting you up through Instagram or Facebook and just direct messaging. That seems to be the move for the young crowd.
So one of the other questions I wanted to ask on tracking, do folks use your INR calls to kind of gauge what's going on in the community when it comes to needs? Because one of the things we've looked at is like, well, I'll be honest, we've received more INRs for housing in the last year than ever before. So it's a way for me to gauge from the INRs really what's happening in my service area. What are some of the major issues going on? Which housing means is one of the big ones now. Other directors and others use that INR data to kind of gauge that. Tom, I see you have your hand up again.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think I'm down here in Tucson, Arizona now in our SIL, but other SILs, I'm working with some SILs up in Connecticut and Massachusetts too. And one of their big things that people are calling in up there, and they're doing a lot of work on, is DME. The wheelchairs and other equipment are not being repaired on time. You're not getting seating on time. It's one that, housing is definitely a big issue, and it is a good way to gauge, to look at, where you want to go as a SIL.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen more calls on transportation and stuff, and it was a direct reflection of cutbacks in funding at the state level on transportation, or level funding when there was more of a need, and all of a sudden, wham, we're seeing more INR calls out for transportation needs. So, Selena, you had your hand up again.
I would say a lot of the INR calls here at my SIL in Delaware, it's housing. There's not, I'd be lying if I said there were, but there's no real accessible handicap housing for consumers and or shelters of so it's sad when you look at the news and you see a national housing shortage. Just add that onto someone who's special needs and they don't want to stay in an institution. They don't, but where can we, there's no housing for them to go to. So I would say that would be honestly, that is the call that we get the most at my center is housing.
And then we'll get swamped. Well, I'll give you like a recent incident. We just had 2 hospitals in my service area that closed, announced closing. So needless to say, now we started to see INR calls from consumers wondering, where am I going to go for healthcare? What about emergency care? What about this? So it, you know, all of a sudden it showed a real major impact. So it was a way for us to gauge kind of what was going on with an emergency situation for people.
Brooke had a question. Do sales have text-enabled phones? Is that something that you do at your sale where people can communicate that way?
Yeah, actually, you know, great question. I just had to go with all of independent living staff having a phone because texting is just the way that so many of the people they're working with are going that it was, and I didn't want them using their personal phone for that. So I just had to, you know, not that I'm an old curmudgeon or anything, but no, I just had to realize that, look, that's the way my staff are communicating now is texting. So I need to get them phones, you know, so it's just, it's the way things are changing. So keeping up with the way things are going, but wonderful question. Yeah.
Yeah, Cora states for texting my cell, Wyoming Independent Living uses Zoom. So I
Yeah.
guess the text feature was Zoom.
I see Renee is saying that they have a phone system that has texting, really useful. Yeah.
Definitely.
Others using Zoom. Yeah. Isn't it something? We're starting to use so much different technology that we use, especially virtual technology for connecting with consumers. Yeah. A change brought out by COVID, but you know, in the end, maybe it's been a change for the better. We found different ways of connecting, even with INRs to be able to connect with people with them virtually was a change, but in the end, it's kind of been a change for the better in some ways. Yeah. Renee put, I love Zoom phone. Other ones, yeah, connecting with people through Teams is another way, other resource people have used.
Tracy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh.
So I'm in the Center for Independence in Grand Junction, Colorado. We're on the western slope, very, very rural, in by Utah. And we found out with so much that we actually use Google Voice on our personal and add it because we couldn't afford all of the phones. And so we use Google Voice, and it will give you a new number that's not your personal number that you are able to use and give consumers. So people that are not able to sales to provide cell phones to everybody, there is Google Voice and it is free.
Wonderful point. Yes, I had staff that were using that prior to getting phones. Is it Janice? You have, I see you've had your hand up.
Yes, hi. I was just gonna say a couple of things. I actually have a question from everyone. Your phones, are your phones purchased by your seals? The phones that you have that you use, are they purchased by them? And just to piggyback on what everyone else was saying, we use Zoom, we use different ways to communicate with our consumers. So it's become, you know, that's just the way of how things are now. You know, it's more than just a communication by a phone call. It's a lot of it is Zoom, text messaging, Meets. We use Meets also. So yeah, there's just, I mean, we just have to get with the, we have to get with the times. Things are changing. So
Yeah, consumers are reaching us in new ways. Yeah. Yeah, we do purchase the phones for staff, but found that, you know, we could get a pretty decent package we did with free phones. So didn't get them the latest and greatest when it came to phones, just one that is functional is all they needed. So.
Is there anyone else that that the sales purchase your phones?
Well, Renee says our center pays for Zoom phone or for Zoom phone service, which staff can use on their personal cells or on their computers both. We also have desk phones for folks who want them, but they pay for the phone service monthly.
Do anyone provide a stipend to your staff for using their cell phones? That was one thing we used to do. Selena, I see you have your,
Oh, sorry, Kyle.
no.
Going back to the technology thing, I'm a woman, 40 something. I love the new technology that is being brought on. I enjoy it, but if I'm being honest, I have an older consumer base, and my still is transitioning to use, we use whatever they call them, the VoIP phones, so I can talk to you through my laptop, and I could talk, anything technology. My consumers are not with it, but it's how I do my job. But I love technology. I'm trying to get involved with this AI to try to help me. I also, other than iOS, I also do the social media, so I'm just trying to stay on the curve, but it's really hard. I'm finding it really hard to get my older consumers to buy in. It's like, all you gotta do is just press this button and we can just be off to the races. But yeah, it's a challenge. Generational divide maybe, but I like all the technology that's being brought on. It's a lot to absorb at once, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. We're not gonna get rid of that landline for quite some time yet. Dee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question for the group. So one of the problems that I've run into, kind of similar to the last person talking about an older consumer base, is when we're filling out our intake forms. Usually the way that I do it is I have someone over the phone with me, the consumer, and I'm filling out the forms by hand that I've printed out while they're answering the questions that I'm asking. Then I scan those into our copier to a digital copy, and I email that to the consumer. This is usually a lot of the consumers I work with, they don't have transportation, or for different reasons, they can't come into the office to do their intake in person. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And then I have to send it to them to get their signatures and initials on all these things. One of the struggles I'm running into is that a lot of times people aren't able, they either can't print it out and scan it in, which that's a huge hassle anyway. I've tried to encourage people to use the digital signature options that come with some different apps, and if you have an iPhone or a smartphone, not everyone has that, obviously, and even if they do, they might not be able to figure out how to do that. So I was wondering, do other people have a more streamlined intake paperwork getting signature system?
Well,
My seal, we pay for Adobe, and that's where we get the signatures. And I too talk to my consumers over the phone, and I say, hey, do I have your permission to, proceed with this form? And they say yes or no. And most times it's yes. So I just go about it that way. But we use Adobe signature. And I make sure to put in notes, signed or authenticated via phone, or something within the notes.
Oh, so you so they don't physically sign it. It's more of like a verbal signature.
Right, because we have a fillable form, and so like when they call, like as I'm talking to you now, I'll just be typing in the answer, and I'll say, hey, do you give me authorization to proceed with this form? And then I'll sign, give them I can't talk today. I will give them the digital signature, and then on the side of it, I'll put my initials or my name so that they know, I was the ILS who took the call.
Okay, I didn't even know you could do that. How, kind of forego having to physically sign it. That's awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
We too have used Adobe. We have staff that have, their laptops they're able to use with a touchscreen for getting signature. I'll tell you, we did look into DocuSign at one point, but boy, that's costly. It's not cheap. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I get so many contracts from counties, other ones,
It's
DocuSign.
annoying.
Than other ones, but it's great. It's easy to get it. I mean, but it's not cheap. So even staff are looking at it cost wise to be able to send that to get consumer signatures on stuff because they can sign even if it's by email or other ones, but it's not cheap. Yeah. And it's not offered through TechSoup either. So
Yeah,
So what-
DocuSign, Jordan Hayes says he uses that at his so that's
no.
the convenience there is really nice, but cost could definitely be a factor.
So I know we're getting close to the end, but I wanted to throw out one other question to folks that, that's come up is how do we keep up on resources? They're constantly changing. Making sure, as Tom brought up, that one, you're providing people with good resources. So it's a constant challenge. I know, making sure that we have the most up-to-date resources. I'll tell you, one of the things to give you an idea with transportation in our area, even providers come and go all the time, it seems like. So trying to be able to keep up on who are the vendors that even provide services out there can be difficult. Challenges people face with that. Anyone?
Can you
Or
repeat the
notice-
question?
I was just saying, problems people have are things that come up when trying to keep up to date on all the resources that are available. I know that it was great when all the ARPA funding came out and there was money available like crazy for a lot of different programs, and then that money dried up. So we still have people calling for resources that don't exist because the funding dried up, which comes and goes. There's grant programs that come up that, might be a 2-year grant program, but when it's gone, it's gone. So
Selena, you want to make
I
a comment?
just, it makes me seem like I talk a lot, but I'm literally just going through this today, so it's like fresh in my mind. We just call from time to time. Like before I give the resource to the consumer, I will always call to verify, but again, when you're so used to dealing with the organization and like, I think it was Mr. Kleiss was saying, funding dries up, but you have a consumer on the phone and they don't understand. Well, they understand the processes, but by the time they get to us, they done ran out of patience. They done ran out of everything. Like, I'm like, this is a process. They don't want to hear that. And then when you say there's no funding, it's like, now I'm the bad guy. I just went from helping you to like, you're not doing nothing. I'm like, it's not me. It's the way it's set up. It's the funding sources dried up. We don't have that pot of money anymore. So I'm running into that. So
Keenan, I see you had your hand up.
Maybe not so much as some of the frustrations we run into with keeping up on resource meetings or resources in the community, but one of the ways we try to stay on top of it, in our different counties that we serve, they have community service provider resource meetings. They're usually seated with the local entity of government there. And so all the different service providers, we have a dedicated time each month that we meet together, keep each other up on what resources we are able to provide and what resources have kind of diminished over the last month. And that's been really helpful for us to keep up on resources.
That's great. We just started up in our area a nonprofit roundtable of just all the area nonprofits getting together. And I found out so much that I didn't know that agencies, I thought I knew what the services they provided. There was some additional services I had no clue. So you're right. Sometimes being at the table is the way we figure things out. I know our INR specialist, she said she'd, for her, it's a challenge for her, but she's always trying to keep up, making contacts with agencies. So she wishes she could do what 211 does, is send it out to everyone and say, here, send me your updated information. I want to make sure this is correct, and then send it back to me. But she doesn't do that. But she says, I wish I could be a pest and do it like they do. So. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. Any final thoughts on INRs? Anything at all?
I got something. Does anybody have tips on how to get, like when I was speaking about the generational divide, does anybody have tips on how to approach that?
Sandra.
Andrew?
Hi, Selena. I'm 52. And so I'm, when you said, did you say 40? Is that what you said earlier? Okay. It made me giggle. Because I'm in the generation where we grew up with, like, technology was just hitting as I'm becoming an adult. And so it's been a real challenge for me as a 52-year-old woman. I just let consumers know, be patient with me. I'm, and then I do stuff with my coworker. I have a younger coworker, and she is tech savvy and she helps me a lot. So if you've got younger people in the building, Selena, I would suggest just utilizing their knowledge and expertise with technology, because seriously, the younger people have grown up with it and it is like second hat to them.
Right, but
So
when I'm dealing with my older consumers, me and technology are great. We're like first cousins almost, but it's
do you
when I'm
mean the
dealing with my older
consumers?
consumers, and that's where, like,
it's hard.
I know my stuff. I'm giving you all the stuff, but it's just hard for them to translate what I'm saying, and anything technical, forget about it.
So we have a device lab at our agency. Our assistive technology department and outreach have partnered together, and we created a device lab for consumers, just like what you're talking about, Selena. And they can come in and they can learn how to use their cell phones. They can learn how to use their tablets, laptops. They can learn how to use, we even have a gaming system that is for, they've got assisted devices for different hand situations. It's really awesome. So that's how we tackle it here. Is we literally had to create it because we had so many consumers coming in not knowing how to use technology. And so we just created a class for that.
I just saw in the chat, great ones that people had put in there on Keep It Up on Resources, having people come in, presenters at their staff meetings and stuff. Yeah, try to do that every opportunity we get, especially if they have new information, always looking to bring them in. But good question, Selena. I've given up on the idea that my father will ever send a text message, and I've given up on that. So I know I have to call him, and that's it. So just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Great conversations. I even learned a lot from some of you. I will make sure to send that form out, Adam. You can send that link. I will email it out to everyone. Happy to share that with folks. So
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for having a great conversation around the topic, and we'll get that email sent at the conclusion of the Zoom. So
thank you, everybody. I plan to be back. It was wonderful today. Thanks so much for having me.
great. Thank you for everybody that shared and commented in the chats. Thank you for your interaction.
yes.
And we'll see you at the next core conversation, hopefully in 1 month.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Kyle. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.